They never lost. Chapter 4. Battle of Achilles Station. The Palace Hall, the shining white marble, was carved by hand centuries ago. It was a testament to both the power of the royal family and their patronage of the arts. It was one of the most serene of places, akin to a temple. Once it brought awe and inspiration into the hearts of many who entered those halls. Today it only brings dread. "What do you mean he escaped?" the young emperor shouted at the small group of soldiers who came to the palace personally to inform him of the situation. "My emperor, your uncle has escaped the confines of the prison, allegedly by the use of an old decommissioned fighter. Who organized it or how we do not now as of the— Find out! Now! I swear to all the gods that heads will roll if you do not find him soon. I want everyone even remotely connected to this plot executed. That is an order!" the emperor shouted at his servants. These soldiers stood still, their faces stoic. But if they were human, they would have been sweating bullets from the stress. "Yes, my emperor. We shall find him and everyone involved," the officer said. He looked at his soldiers with an expression that said, "We will find him, right? Good. You are dismissed." The emperor calmed down, sat back on his throne, and sighed. The soldiers hastily exited the palace. "Kamaz, what's the situation on the front?" the emperor asked. From behind the throne, the silhouette of a person appeared. "My lord, all is going smoothly. Soon the fleets will exit warp near the border stations, the largest of them being Achilles Station. Though large, it is not nearly as well defended. It is guaranteed it will fall within hours, or less," the person said. "Excellent. Though once they see our fleet, they will probably surrender immediately. I hope the humans aren't that dumb to throw their lives to just slow down the inevitable," the emperor said while massaging his temples. "My lord, there is nothing to stress about. The human military has been defunded since the end of the War of Heaven, while our military stood strong for the entire duration of the peace. They will kiss our flag with time, do not worry," the person said. "I hope you're right." "Ugh, what am I saying? Of course you are. You have never been wrong thus far." "I trust your judgment," the emperor replied. The cloaked figure merely nodded at the response, before retreating back into the darkness. Soon enough, a notification popped up on the throne screen. The emperor saw it. It was about the information on the front. He tapped the notification. A screen appeared in front of him. Admiral Hasgwern wrote a note informing the emperor of the current situation. It read as follows. "My emperor, as of writing, we will be exiting warp within half an hour. By the time you receive this, we will be out of warp. We will execute your orders to take the station and minimize damage to the station. My contingent will be taking Achilles Station. We are 80 ships strong, including the capital ship I commandeer. Within the end of the month, we expect to be near Proxima Centauri." The emperor nodded. He was late. But this will do. The emperor started writing a message back. "Good. Proceed with the operation. Terran Federation Achilles Station, 22:03 hours, Earth time, EST." There was a dreadful silence in the communications room. Now almost all of the personnel were armed and wore their spacesuits in case of depressurization. Thankfully, they could do all their tasks without much trouble due to the suits being designed with practicality in mind, while not sacrificing their utility. "Hayashi, what's the situation?" Trevor asked while still looking at the graphs on the screen, cold sweat on his face. "We managed to mobilize around 500 men to defend the station. We have approx 72 fighter craft. The station guns have been brought up to full operational status," Hayashi replied. "Great. We now wait. Schmidt, tell me what's going on here." Trevor pointed at the screen. "Sir, they should come out of warp at any moment. I can't tell now precisely, but—" "Wait," Schmidt said. He saw something. "There are fluctuations in the immediate area. They're exiting warp," Schmidt said, finally breaking his sight from his screen. "What's the status on reinforcements?" Trevor asked. 10 hours at the minimum. Sir, do I have permission to join the fight?" Schmidt said. No, you stay here and relay the situation back to the military. Proxima base, is it? Trevor replied. Yes, sir, it's the Proxima base. Good, you have your orders, Trevor said, turning to the rest of the crew. As for the rest of you, go into your positions. I need the guns manned. I need the fighters in the void as soon as possible. Is that understood? Trevor yelled. Yes, sir! The reply resounded in unison. Soon enough, everyone ran to their positions, readying themselves for a siege that will go on in history. Territory of the Terran Federation, outskirts of Sector 7 Achilles Station capital ship. Arvinid Gwitch, Control Tower. The ship shook violently as the initial stages of warp exit began. The Admiral sat, fiddling with his fingers nervously. Soon enough, a voice started counting down, exiting warp in T-minus 10987. The Admiral took a deep breath and braced himself for the exit. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, exiting warp. The ship shook. Even more, a whistling sound could be heard that began high-pitched, but soon started to be deeper and deeper. The sound reached a crescendo, and with it came into sight the static blackness of space. Soon enough, other ships started appearing beside them. Check status, the Admiral said. Checking his screen once more, he saw a notification. The Emperor replied. Upon seeing the message, he sighed and looked at his crew with a sunken expression. Engine status positive, one voice said. Pressure status positive, another said. Weapon system positive, said the last voice. The Admiral nodded. Status on the rest of the fleet? The Admiral asked. Give me a moment. A voice said. All is positive. Good. Check the frequency and connect me with Achilles Station. I'll lay the terms of surrender. Within moments, a reply to the order arrived. Sir, you're connected. The Admiral nodded, then began speaking into his microphone. He assumed the humans had a translator, so he began speaking Phrygian. This is Admiral Hasgurn, under the orders of Emperor Mab Plentin of the Phrygian Empire. You are obligated to lay down your weapons and surrender. You will be treated according to Intergalactic Law of Warfare and Conflict, Section 11, page 89. If you do not comply, we will be authorized to use force. I repeat, if you do not comply, we are authorized to use force. The Admiral finished. There was static on the other end for minutes on end. The Admiral grew frustrated and impatient. He activated his microphone once more. If you do not reply within the next 10 minutes, we will take your answer as no. Which means we will board the station. Is that understood? The Admiral said, the frustration in his voice evident. Right after that, a reply came in broken Phrygian. According to Intergalactic Law Section 7, page 47, infringement of territory or breaking of territorial integrity of any sovereign nation without permission counts as a high offense in the Intergalactic Court with the penalty of sanctions. Repeated offenses may give permission to the sovereign nation whose territorial integrity is broken to legally retaliate militarily. And according to Intergalactic Law Section 11 of War and Conflict, page 22, infringement of any territory of a sovereign nation or illegal occupation of any territory of any sovereign nation without a prior declaration of war, with or without a valid reason, counts as a high offense in the Intergalactic Court, will result in sanctions and the legal permission for immediate military retaliation. I recommend that you send the aforementioned information to your Emperor. If you had not followed those laws, how can we trust you to follow the rest? The Admiral sat, looking at his screen. He knew they were right, but there was nothing he could do. Deploy fighters and boarding crews. We are going in, the Admiral replied. Achilles Station Control Tower. Trevor pressed a button on the console, disconnecting the microphone. He did not expect a reply. Sir, when did you learn Phrygian? Schmidt asked. Long story. I'll get going now. Good luck, Trevor said. To you as well, sir, Schmidt replied, before looking back at his screen. He saw a sharp rise in activity in the enemy fleet. They are deploying fighters, probably boarding crews. He sent the info back into the hangar where now the pilots were entering their craft. 200, 300, 400, Schmidt said to himself. He tapped on one of the screens. This is Achilles Station, speaking to Proxima. The hostile fleet is deploying fighter craft, most likely boarding craft as well. Estimated numbers are between 450 and 500. Achilles Station Hangar Bay. A flurry of activity, dozens of people rushing to the craft, arms and munitions were being distributed between soldiers. There were some civilian volunteers among those ranks. Trevor Macaulay walked with a quick pace through the hangar. As he walked, he failed to notice another person going the opposite way. They bumped into each other. "Sorry," a man, younger than Trevor, said. "No worries, you a pilot?" Trevor stopped the man. "Yes, I forgot something. I'll be in the fighter soon," the man replied. "Hurry up, then," Trevor replied before turning around and storming out of sight. The young man continued his quick pace to the other side of the hangar. Once he arrived at some crates, he grabbed a bag, opened it, and retrieved something. A photo. On it was the face of the young man and woman. Between them was a young child, no more than 2 years old. Once he grabbed the photo, he ran back toward the craft. In one hand was his helmet, and in the other was the photo. Once he arrived at his fighter, he hopped on the wing and entered. He closed the hatch and put his helmet on. He put the photo inside a crack between 2 consoles. Hangar depressurization in 1 minute. An automated robotic voice resounded throughout the hangar. He could see as the ones remaining in the hangar rushed out, leaving only the pilots in the fighters. Moments passed, and soon enough the man could hear a loud hiss. The hangar door started opening. He lit up his craft, and the engines came to life, as did the 20 or so others in this hangar, though their sound was nullified due to lack of air. He got a notification on his console screen. The map of the soon-to-be battlefield appeared. He saw red dots, hundreds of them, approach their position. His eyes went wide in shock. He looked at the photo. He grabbed the stick of his craft tightly. In front of him, the other fighters began exiting the hangar into the black void beyond. He pushed the acceleration lever and began to exit the hangar. As he exited at a great speed, he turned left, trying to stay in formation with the other craft. "Visual on hostiles," he heard someone in his comms. "Positive," he replied. He looked into the void. Thousands of kilometers away, there was the hostile fleet. Despite the distance, he could see the enemy capital ship, a hulking mass of metal with dozens of other ships around it. And to his dismay, he saw hundreds of dots in the distance. Confirming that the radar was indeed correct, he looked left, and he saw other fighters exit other hangars in formation. The enemy approached at high speed, and soon enough they were in range. The AA guns lit up on the station, hundreds of streaks of light silently traveling at high speed through the void. "Ready for contact," a voice in his comm said. He tapped on his screen. Weapons appeared on the wings of his craft and one on its nose. "Ready," he replied. He put his finger on the trigger, one sentence repeating in his head. "Hold, no matter the cost, Achilles Station hallway." C2 Trevor held onto his rifle, 3 more men behind him. To the left was a window looking out into the void. Now the sight to behold was that of a battle of epic proportions. Hundreds of fighters, enemy transports, and the like flew about. Thousands of streaks of light with an occasional blast of light. An enemy or ally dead. The battle raged for 2 hours. The Phrygian fleet kept sending more and more fighters and transports. They seemed to have endless supplies of the things, soldiers as well. The station would have fallen if they wanted to completely destroy it, but it seems they want it intact. "Schmidt, what's the situation outside?" Trevor asked into his helmet microphone. "We lost at least 80 craft. The remaining fighters aren't going to hold on for too long." "What's the enemy casualties?" "My best estimate is about 200 fighters, and transports might be more. Looking at the wreckage, a new batch of enemy transports is incoming." "Copy that," Trevor replied, looking at his men. "Hayashi, they are going to breach the entrance at the end of the hall, though I'm more worried about hallway B. Hayashi, link up with Michaels in hall B and we can take it from here," Trevor said, looking at Hayashi. "Are you sure?" Hayashi asked. "Absolutely positive. Godspeed." "Godspeed, sir," Hayashi replied, before running off. Trevor ducked down behind a thick metal table they managed to get out of one of the offices. They welded it to the floor. "Guys, get into position. We're expecting visitors anytime soon." 10 minutes later, Trevor could see outside the small, thick glass window that the streaks of light stopped, save for the still active AA. He saw the ships get closer. Soon enough, he heard an explosion from above. "What was that?" one of the men asked. "They're hitting the AA. Don't worry about it. Focus on the end of the hall," Trevor replied. Minutes passed. With more explosions from above, the AA was almost entirely destroyed. Then suddenly they heard it. Asterisk, click, asterisk. Asterisk, click, asterisk. Asterisk, thump, asterisk. Hold, Trevor said, pointing his rifle to the door. Tss, hold. Psh, asterisk. Boom, asterisk. The doors flew open from an explosion, and shrapnel from the metal doors flew across the hallways. Fire! Trevor shouted. He pressed down on the trigger and released the full force of the automatic rifle on whoever dared step foot at the station. The sound of the rifle fire was muffled by his helmet, otherwise he would have gone deaf alongside his men. He focused his eyes on the opening. He saw dozens of Phrygian soldiers mass into the hallway. They cut down some, but soon enough a blue force field appeared in front of them, protecting them from the gunfire. They still kept on shooting in hopes that the force field could withstand so much. But time was of the essence. "I'm shooting the window! Cover me!" Trevor peeked out from his cover and fired at one of the thick windows on the other side of the hall, just where the Phrygians were. He shot once, twice. That thing wasn't breaking that easily, it was designed as such. But he was adamant. He kept shooting until asterisk, crack asterisk. The sound of air escaping the hall at high speed was heard. The Phrygian holding up the force field was sucked up head first into the broken window. He was too large to be sucked out. His helmet glass broke, and he suffocated instantly, at the same time creating a plug so the air won't escape. That worked, Trevor thought to himself. But he couldn't count his lucky stars just yet. The enemy finally opened fire. He took cover behind the metal table. Thankfully, it was thick enough to withstand the hailstorm for now. One of his men peeked out and shot forward. He brought one enemy down, his bullet going straight through the helmet glass and into the Phrygian's brain. The other soldier did the same, Trevor as well. That was on repeat for nearly half an hour. The Phrygians managed to find cover in the adjacent rooms, at least where they were able to break through. As the gunfight continued, Trevor sat down behind the metal table next to one of his men. "Schmidt, what's the status?" he shouted into his helmet mic. "Sir, Hall A, B, C, D, and E are still holding. I've lost contact with F and G. Hall H has fallen back to Hall J. Hangar 3 has been breached as well." Schmidt replied. "Shit!" Trevor yelled, before rising up and taking a couple of pot shots at the enemy. "Schmidt, what's the ETA for the 14th Fleet?" Trevor said. 5 to 6 hours, sir," Schmidt replied. "Sir, are we going to hold on for that?" One of his 3 men started saying before seeing a flash of light. The man was shot straight through his cover, a metal pillar. His arm was torn off and a portion of his torso was eviscerated. "Jesus Christ!" another said. "You fucking assholes, I'll kill you!" He rose up from his cover and started firing at the enemy. "You fucking idiot, get down!" Trevor shouted, but before he could do anything, the man was shot in the shoulder, and another flash of light appeared. Before Trevor could blink, the man's head was gone. "God fucking damn it!" Trevor yelled. He looked at the remaining soldier next to him. "We need to retreat." "Jesus, how?" he continued. "I've got an idea." The soldier grabbed a grenade from his person. "Kid, you're going to blow us all up into Kingdom Come." Trevor said to him, "I'm going to blow myself up, sir. You go on through the door and lock the hatch. I'm going to be the sponge. You're more valuable to the defense than I." The soldier said, holding the grenade in his hand. Trevor looked at him with disbelief. He wanted to tell him that he is as invaluable as any other soldier, every man and woman here, but there was no time. He couldn't lose another. He hated that. But with the fast-approaching footsteps, he had no other choice. "All right," Trevor said. "On my mark." The soldier took a deep breath. He counted with his fingers. 3, 2, 1, go, the soldier said. He released the pin of the grenade and got out of his cover completely, running at the enemy. He fired his rifle randomly with one hand, screaming at the top of his lungs. The Phrygians hesitated for a moment, then opened fire, shooting at the soldier. Trevor rushed toward the door. Getting to the other side, he pressed a button, and the door closed slowly. The soldier was shot at least a dozen times, but he was still standing. The Phrygians stopped firing, probably being stumped as to how the human was still standing. "See you in hell," the soldier said. He let go of the grenade, and it dropped onto the floor the very moment Trevor locked the hatch on the door. "Retreat!" one of the Phrygians shouted, but it was too little too late. Boom! The explosion ripped apart a good portion of the hall and created a hole in the wall of the station. The remaining Phrygians were sucked out within moments, and those who held on to something quickly followed. Trevor looked through the small window of the door. Schmidt, Hall B is destroyed. I'm falling back to Hayashi and Michaels. Copy? Hear you. They will appreciate the help. Hours later, Achilles Station Control Tower. A lone figure sat in the control tower, surrounded by various screens. The doors were barricaded shut. There were crates haphazardly placed all over the room. The figure spoke into a microphone. His voice was shaky. This is Lawrence Schmidt speaking to Proxima Base. Halls B through H had been breached. He paused. Are there still civilians on the station? Someone replied. As I've said, everyone who wanted to leave left before they arrived. Okay, what's the situation in Hall J? Schmidt paused before replying. Hold on. He pressed another button on the panel in front of him. Trevor, how's J holding? Schmidt asked. He waited for a response for a few seconds. Could be better, Trevor replied, his voice barely audible through the gunfire. How long can you hold? Schmidt asked. I don't know. We're surrounded. Shit! Trevor exclaimed. Hayashi's down! Another voice could be heard vaguely on the other side. Listen, Lawrence, right? Been nice working with you. I'll go ahead and... Explosion! I'll go ahead and slow him down for you. You did a great job. Hold on tight, Trevor said. Goodbye, Trevor McCauley. It has been nice, Schmidt replied. Yeah, have a taste of this, you fuck! The link cut. Schmidt could hear a large explosion in the distance. The whole station shook. This is Lawrence Schmidt, speaking to Proxima Base. How long until reinforcements? ETA is set about an hour to 2 hours. They are currently in the warp as we speak. What's your status? The voice replied. Hall J fell. I'm the only one remaining, I think, Schmidt said. There was static on the other side. He could hear footsteps on the other side of the barricaded doors. Proxima Base, do I have permission to leave station? Schmidt asked. There was static for a few more seconds before a reply came. Permission granted. Schmidt got up from his seat, stretched, and grabbed his rifle. He checked it. It was loaded. He could hear them start to plant something on the door. Schmidt crouched behind one of the control panels and aimed his rifle at the doors. He waited. Soon enough, a small explosion swung the doors wide open. The improvised barricades proved themselves useless. Schmidt waited until one of the Phrygians peered through. He shot him right in the head. Another soon entered and fired. Schmidt put his head down. He went prone and crawled to the side of the control panel. He took his shot and shot the Phrygian in the shoulder. The back and forth went on for a good 15 minutes. Schmidt took 7 Phrygian lives during that 15 minutes, methodically changing his position, not letting a single one through those doors. But exhaustion soon made him sloppy. He looked at the door to see if any still wanted to try and get into the control tower, but he was met with a bullet into his throat. He fell down, clutching his bleeding throat and gurgling on his own blood. The Phrygian stormed into the control tower, ignoring his suffering as he slowly choked on his blood. Soon enough, Schmidt died in a pool of his own blood. Call the Admiral, the station is taken, one of the Phrygians said. Yes, I'm on it, said another. What's with the crates? Someone else asked. Should we check them? The first said. Without permission, he went up to one of the crates to open them. Don't open them! We don't con! Boom! A massive explosion engulfed the control tower, destroying what little of the station remained still intact, killing most of the Phrygian soldiers on the station, while leaving those left stranded and in need of rescue. That's what one would call martyrdom. Drop a live grenade when killed.